One. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. This is part two of our chat with Joe Deninzon. Our first conversation with Joe on June 2nd hasn't aired as of yet because we learned that during that interview, Joe had already joined the legendary classic rock group Kansas as their new violinist, replacing David Ragsdale. Joe was not allowed to say anything about joining the band at that time during the interview, so we added part two with Joe to chat solely about becoming a member of Kansas. So, Joe, when did you first get the invite, and how did that go?
It all started with a tomato.
It always starts with a tomato.
Doesn't it though? No, it was a weird night. It was actually late February, believe it or not, and I agreed to play a house party, and I was rushing to get to the gig, and we were expecting company, and I was helping my wife cut salad. I said, I'll help you cut it. And as I was running out the door, I was going to be late to the gig. I'm like, that one salad looks like it needs one more tomato. So I hastily started cutting the tomato, and I sliced my ring finger in half, like the tip of it.
Really?
You know. Yeah. So obviously, I had to get a sub for the gig. I ran to the ER. I was in the ER getting my finger stitched up, writhing in pain, as I get a text from Tom Brislin asking me to call him. Tom is a keyboardist from Kansas and a friend and colleague of mine who I've known for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And of all the times that I would get the call, that was when it happened. So I call him back, and for his first words to me were, so Kansas, we've all had COVID. We've had to cancel like 20 shows and lost a lot of money, and it was just, we had to return tickets. It's just been really rough. So we have a new policy where every member of the band has to have a backup guy who can come in and know the music. Would you be interested in checking it out? I said, of
Mm-hmm.
course. So, and none of it's written down. It's all, everything's by ear. So I had to learn 2.5 hours of really hard music. The next day, I had a long talk with Phil Ehart, who saw
Mm-hmm.
some of the serious videos and was really impressed. So he was really serious about it and made me a good offer. And I didn't know what was going on with David. I was a huge fan of David and still am. Deepest respect for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent the next 2 weeks doing a deep dive, learning the music, working my butt off. And it was on and off. There were some issues with David, personal issues, and they weren't sure if he was going to do the tour. It was 3 months of, am I doing it? Am I not doing it? So finally, it was, I think, it was a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that they called me and said they need me to do the whole tour and invited me to be a permanent member, regular member of the band. So, yeah, I had to rearrange my schedule back and forth a few times, and um, yeah, and then it was real. I flew down. I met with Tom. We went through all the music for the set. I flew down to Macon, Georgia, where they rehearse. Met the band for the first time. We got along really well. Had 3 days of very intense rehearsals, and we were ready to go. And we just did our first two shows together in Pittsburgh and in Baltimore this past weekend.
Wow. Yeah, Baltimore, that's my old stomping grounds. I was actually born in Baltimore
Cool.
and grew up in DC and then moved down here to Florida. I love Kansas. I've been a fan since day one, from way back. I've seen them many a times. I've had some of the guys on the show. So I am. You're going to make a tremendous impact with the band. That was a great choice. They stole you, man.
Dream come through for me because as a violinist, obviously, I've been a fan of theirs all my life,
Right.
and huge fan of Robbie Steingart and David Ragsdale. So it's very surreal, the whole thing, and they're just the nicest people. Everyone in that organization, not just the band, but everyone who works for them. It's just such a great group of people.
Yeah.
I can't
And,
say enough.
what blows me away is how you can learn all that music so fast. I mean, do you have to learn the whole repertoire or just the songs
Oh,
on tour?
God, even they don't learn the whole. I mean, there's some songs that they haven't played live in years that
Right.
they've had to study up on. I think the Pinnacle, Glimpse of Home, a few deep cut tracks that they're doing for this tour that they're bringing back. So for me, I'm a transcriber. I read music. Not everyone in the band reads music.
Right.
I went to school for it. So I transcribed all the parts. I had the isolated tracks from David, so I learned, it's singing, playing guitar, and playing violin. It's not just violin. So, and then I had to really, every spare second of the day, I was staring at my phone, memorizing music. I had it all in a Dropbox folder, and just muscle memory, and just it was boot camp. It was Kansas boot camp, but it was 3 months of it. It wasn't. I didn't really learn it. People think I learned the music as soon as they announced it. I was working on it since February, leading up to this. But it was hard work. Their music is not easy, and that set list is like running a marathon. You have to be alert at all times. There is no downtime. you know?
Yeah. Did
Um,
you learn it on paper? I mean, did you have the music in front of you, or did you just kind of listen by ear?
but by the time I got, well, I wrote down everything. I transcribed everything.
Right.
By the time I got to the first rehearsal, I had everything committed to memory. You
That's
know.
amazing.
So I just was sitting there, and the funny thing is, like, my family had a Disney trip planned right
Really?
after I got. So during that trip, I was like, "Oh man, I got to use the time." So we're in the long lines at the rides, and I'm looking at my phone, memorizing Kansas music. It was a good way to pass the time. It's, Uh, but everyone's got their own way of learning stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I have my way, and Tom has his way. So it worked. I just it was a lot of uh mental work, uh mental aerobics, so to speak. But yeah, now I have it. It's just smooth hopefully smooth sailing. It's more um it'll become more automatic, and I can have a little more freedom to take some liberties with it. Hopefully, we'll see. Um,
What was that first show like?
I thought I would be completely freaking out. I was a little bit, but overall, I mean, I had done my homework. I knew the stuff, and I had rehearsed with the guys a lot, and I was psyching myself up for it. And I got so much. The really surprising thing was I got so much love and support from Kansas fans.
Right.
I was stepping into such a delicate situation, because David was so highly revered, and
Hmm.
rightfully so. I wanted to be careful and honor him and honor Robbie and the history
Hmm.
of the band, and play the parts right. So I was trying to be very careful, and everybody was just really cool, online and in person. Everyone I met, so it went really well, better than I thought it would, and I was very relieved. That was the real test, playing that first show. You know, so yeah, I couldn't be happier. I'm counting my blessings. I'm so grateful for everything, and I think if I never had Stratusferius, if I hadn't toiled all those years with Stratusferius, I don't know if I would be here working with Kansas,
Hmm.
because partly I think what sold that me to them was the work I did with my band.
Right. And the Jimi Hendrix quote of the violin, that didn't hurt.
Yeah, I don't even remember where that started. It's so funny.
It's everywhere now.
I don't know what to say about that.
I guess in the old days you would have had an audition for the band, but now they know your work and they just say, get him.
You know, everyone's scattered all over the country.
Hmm.
Ronnie lives in Chicago. Two of the guys live in Atlanta. One guy lives in North Carolina. Tom and I live in New Jersey. So it's not just, hey, let's walk down the street and meet in the studio. Everything's done on YouTube, via email, et cetera, et cetera. So they were researching, violinists on YouTube, checking out different people's videos. That's how they made their choice.
Right.
That's how a lot of bands do. I think that's how Journey found their lead singer. They
Yeah.
saw he was, and then, they saw it on YouTube.
Yeah. Same thing with Yes, when unfortunately they replaced John Anderson, they did the same thing. I think the guy was in a tribute band. Yeah. I had Rich on the show not long ago. He's a great guy. Love Rich.
Super nice, great sense of
Yeah.
humor, dry sense of
Great
humor.
guitar player. Yeah. I think I saw you playing guitar as well, right? On stage?
I am. I'm playing guitar on a couple of songs,
Yeah.
including Fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah,
I
because I saw David. David also played guitar on stage. So I guess you have to mimic what he did, I guess.
yeah, I mean, they wanted someone who could double on guitar.
Right.
Guitar is a secondary instrument to me. I played it since I was 15.
Hmm.
Uh, I rarely gig as a guitar player because people know me as a violin player. So now I'm kind of covering my skill set and being able to scratch the guitar itch, so to speak. It's a lot of
Exactly.
fun, especially playing that stuff.
Well,
Um,
this tour is pretty huge. It's the 50th anniversary tour, another fork in the road. It's very lengthy. You got a bunch of dates coming to Florida. I'm hoping to see you in Clearwater, you know,
oh
and
yeah,
maybe I can meet you and say hello to you and everything.
without
Um,
it.
all the
Yeah.
dates in Florida are in January. So we still got a little bit of time left for that. Are you guys playing tonight or are you off tonight?
Oh, we're playing two back-to-back shows at Keswick Theater in Glenside near Philly, Friday and Saturday. That's the next thing.
Wow.
You go to kansasband.com. All the tour dates are listed. It goes through late January, and they might even add more dates.
Yeah.
Tour is selling pretty well.
You're going to attract more people. I mean, Kansas sells out anyway, but now that they know you're in the band, it's like a double treat, you know? It's like seeing Kansas and Stratofurious.
I was I was really surprised the amount of positive comments I've gotten from people because the fans started snooping around. Who is this guy? Checking out my stuff on YouTube, and it's just been overwhelming. I'm pitching myself. It's just been overwhelming.
It's weird because a lot of musicians now belong to several bands. That's just the norm nowadays.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This is gonna take up a lot of my time and be kind of my focus, but I'm still gonna keep Stratusfurious going when I can. We have
Good.
an album pushing right now. We have some
Yeah.
shows lined up when Kansas has a break, and I still love making music with those guys. Um, you know, that's I have to pick and choose my projects now, but that's my baby, so I'll keep it going as much as I can within the uh, realm of the confines of Kansas plans.
Well, your timing was great because you got the box set that just came out. Is it out yet?
It's out, yeah.
Okay.
Band.com. You'll see a link to our Bandcamp. You can purchase it or download or stream or whatever.
It's great, man. I watched the whole live CD, DVD, and it's awesome. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just coincidence that we had this release date plan,
Hmm.
had the CD release party planned for this time, and it kind of worked out between the Kansas commitments. And yeah, everything just kind of converged in a cool way.
Yeah. So, what does the family think about you joining Kansas?
They're excited. Yeah, they're
Are they?
trying. I don't. They're trying to wrap their head around it because my wife has a music career as well. She's a violinist with the New York Philharmonic.
Right. That's incredible.
So they tour. She's going to China for 3 weeks, and then they're doing a residency.
Wow.
So it's going to be a lot of juggling with the kids, and we got to kind of rearrange our life. But we kind of figured out the summer, and then beyond that, we'll have to brainstorm. Make it work.
Yeah.
But it's you just got to grab the opportunity when it comes. And
Sure. I like how they added your face now to Kansas, in all the promos.
yeah,
I keep looking for you. I said, "There's Joe."
my 15-year-old self about this.
Well, Joe, I'm excited for you, man. We're going to look forward to seeing you in Clearwater for sure. Um, like I said, you're a tremendous addition to the band. It couldn't have came at a better time for Kansas, and it's like a new focus to the band. You know, is there anything in sight as far as? I mean, they just put out an album not too long ago. Um, but is there any talk about future albums or?
There's been some murmurings. I heard a recent interview Richard did where he talked about writing and probably they break in February.
Okay.
So I think there's going to be they're going to start compiling new material hopefully, and I'll be involved to whatever degree they want in the writing of it. Um, but that's seems to be what they're thinking about.
That'll be that'll be fantastic. Do they have you doing solos yet or not yet?
A lot. I mean, well,
Really?
Song for America is so much violin.
Yeah.
There's so much featured violin in the show. It's just like Ah, it's
Yeah.
I'm in heaven because I get to play all those great parts. It's just so much fun. There's a lot of features.
Well, the violin definitely defined who Kansas is. You know, without the violin, it's not Kansas.
Google rock violin. That's the band that comes up. I mean, it's
Yeah.
the band most associated with violin in rock and roll.
Well,
So
well just think like 50 years ago or 45 years ago, they would have had you wearing overalls.
I'll wear them now. I don't care.
I'll never forget when Kansas first came out. I was in high school. And, when I saw the band, I said, this must be a Southern band, because they were all from Kansas and overalls. And then they played this fantastic music, progressive rock. And everybody, everybody was blown away by them when they first came out.
The thing about them is they mix progressive rock and very intricate, you know, complex music with like a southern vibe.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting uh, crossover of styles that they were able to attract the kind of southern rock fans and fans of progressive rock, like Rush fans and uh, Allman Brothers fans. In a way, they were able to cover those demographics to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. They always classify the Allman Brothers as Southern, but they weren't. They were into jazz. They were in all kinds of stuff. If you listen to their music.
So, yeah, it's great, and I love fiddling. I love playing kind of bluegrass fiddly stuff, and
Hmm.
is that element in some of the music a little bit. I mean, it's more prog, more prog rock oriented, but it's yeah. There's so much color and so much nuance in their music, and it's just I don't think I'll ever get tired of playing it.
Yeah. One of my favorite songs. Well, I love Songs for America. Magnum Opus. That's got to be my favorite song. I told Rich that because it kind of reminds me of Ben Hur. Like when he's in the ship and the whip in the
Yeah,
beginning. And then the rowing.
if they worked that into the set on a future tour,
Oh, I love that song. I
people
really do.
are requesting songs, but they don't realize how much work it takes to put these songs together. Like there's a lot of advanced planning that goes into it. It's you can't just spontaneously, hey man, let's add this tonight.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's got to be a hard one to do live too. Yeah, especially the intro. The drumming.
yeah, it would be quite a task.
Exactly.
No, maybe they'll decide to do it on a future tour.
Yeah. Well, Joe, you've answered all my questions. Actually, I'm so happy for you. You got anything else to add about Kansas or Stratafurious?
Come see Kansas on tour for
Yep.
Nothing Road, kansasband.com. And my band has a new live DVD out, stratosband.com, STRATOS band.com. We're not touring, but Kansas is. But, support the music any way you can. And thank you for listening.
It would be cool if you have Kansas and then Stratafurious open for Kansas, and you play both both bands.
I'd be the house violinist for the night.
That'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
they don't use a lot of opening acts. Yeah, that would be great. But,
Yeah, they
uh,
don't. I can't remember. Well, when I saw them at Coachman's Park, I think the Little River Band opened them for them,
a
but it
long
was
time.
like a festival.
Yeah. I mean, over the years they've had on and off. They've had. I think when they do a shorter program, maybe they have openers.
Right.
This show is like over 2 hours. The one they're doing now.
Wow.
It's a lot of music.
Yeah, their performance is like a Pink Floyd show. You know what I mean? It's epic. It's kind because they always sound like a an orchestra. You know, even though they're just a band, a group, but they sound like an orchestra. They always do.
You have violin. You have two keyboards, so you
Yeah.
can get really fat sound. And my role because I play a seven-string electric violin, which I don't. The other two guys had not. I like to play low, distorted parts, so sometimes it'll act as a rhythm guitar too rich to beef up that sound.
Hmm.
And depending on sometimes I'll actually be playing rhythm guitar to him. Sometimes I'll be playing rhythm violin with a distortion pedal. So there's a lot you can do between all those instruments and that wall of sound. It's a lot of fun.
What was Rich's first impression when he had you on stage with him and you guys were playing together?
You know, he it's hard to read him. So he doesn't smile a lot. He's a very kind of serious dude, but he's actually very funny, and he's got a good sense of humor. And
Yeah,
he told me some really nice things afterwards, and I think he was happy, based on what I've heard him say. So I didn't get any negative feedback from anybody. So I'm assuming they like what I'm doing.
awesome, awesome. I was looking all over YouTube for one of the new performances, but I didn't see anything yet. With you and the band,
There's a lot of stuff on social media, and I've
right?
seen it on YouTube if you dig around. I think if you type in Kansas uh, Benedum Center or Kansas Lyric Opera House, they'll something.
That's what I got to do. I was punching in Kansas Joe Deninzon, so
Oh,
yeah,
well,
I got to put the venue in, I think.
maybe or put the date like June 2nd or June 3rd, maybe something like
Right, exactly. Well, once again, I want to say special thanks to Ann Layton of Layton Media for bringing back Joe on the show.
that. Yeah,
And you mentioned Kansas, www.kansasband.com, to check out all the shows around the country. And can't wait to see you in Clearwater, January 20th. Joe, thank you so much, man, for coming back. Now I can put this interview out because I got the whole scoop.
happening. Uh, yeah, and actually, well, I changed my shirt since the first one. So, but I was wearing a Kansas shirt. And the last one, I think this has "Carry On Wayward Son." So,
Oh, cool. That's awesome, man. I'm so happy for you.
um, thanks so much. Thanks for having me, and really appreciate it.
All right, Joe. Enjoy the tour, man. Try to get some rest as well, if you can.
All right,
All
take
right.
care.
Bye bye. Take care.